I have, as you can imagine, done a lot of thinking over the last few days, and I am clear that I have to do what's right for my country, Scotland. This isn't easy, and it's not without pain, as I have a genuine friendship with Keir Starmer. But my first priority and my first loyalty is to my country, Scotland. And I am not willing to sacrifice Scotland's NHS, our schools, our communities, our towns, cities, villages and islands to a third decade of an SNP government. That's why the distraction needs to end and the leadership in Downing Street has to change. It is so obvious that we desperately need change in Scotland. And in 3 months' time, the opportunity to get rid of a failing SNP government is one that is too important to be missed. We cannot allow the failures at the heart of Downing Street to mean the failures continue here in Scotland. Because the election in May is not without consequence for the lives of Scots. We have an NHS crisis where too many Scots can't access the treatment they need and when they need it. We have a housing emergency with more than 10,000 Scottish children homeless right now. And we have too many young people not feeling safe at school or on our streets or missing out on the opportunities they deserve. And we have an SNP government that is addicted to secrecy and cover-ups with devastating consequences. That's why I have to be honest about failure wherever I see it. The situation in Downing Street is not good enough. There have been too many mistakes. They promised they were going to be different, but too much has happened. Have there been good things? Of course there have, many of them, but no one knows them and no one can hear them because they're being drowned out. That's why it cannot continue. I am proud to have played my part in removing a Tory government that was doing so much damage to Scotland. And having a Labour government matters. I am proud of my Scottish Labour MPs who did the hard work, persuaded our fellow Scots, ran a historic and successful campaign, and who have spent every day since fighting for Scotland's interests. I'm proud of these Scottish Labour ministers serving at every level of government, delivering for Scotland. I want them to stay in government because I said right at the start that my first priority and my first loyalty is to my country, Scotland. That's why they must continue to defend and protect Scotland's interests. Keir Starmer is a decent man, and it is no secret that I have always got on well with him, and he has dedicated his life to public service. I have also dedicated myself to public service, and I need to decide what I'm willing to accept and what I'm willing to tolerate. The people of this great country, Scotland, are crying out for competent government, for transparency, for honesty, and for delivery. They want to see politics that is open and accountable. They want to see leaders who put the national interest before themselves. That is the standard I will always apply. In 3 months, we have an election that must be about one thing and one thing only: Scotland. That is my duty, that is my priority, that is my loyalty, and that is Scotland's choice. Thank you.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
I'll open up for some questions. I'll take Glenn Campbell from the BBC.
Anas Sarwar, just spell out why you want change and why you think that will end what you call distraction. Wouldn't it just plunge your party and the country into further chaos as a new leader is sought?
I think the reality is, Glenn, that there are so many achievements of a UK Labour government, so many good things that are happening across our country. But if you ask people, they can't see them and they can't hear them because the leadership in Downing Street has become a huge distraction. And I've had to think about my own priority, and my own priority, my first loyalty, is to Scotland. And Scotland needs to fundamentally take the opportunity for change here in Scotland in 3 months' time.
But who do you want to replace Keir Starmer? And if that
let me be
leadership contest, won't that cause months of chaos?
Let me be really clear. I am not supporting or backing any alternative or any candidate. This is not about MPs versus MSPs. This is about what is right for Scotland. And it is for the UK Cabinet, it is for Downing Street, it is for the UK Labour Party to decide any process, any timeline and what comes next. Colin Mackay from STB.
You told me on Thursday you thought that Keir Starmer would still be Prime Minister come the election in May. What's changed since Thursday?
Well, what I said to you, Colin, was that yes, he could, but we needed answers. And I think, to be honest, the answers and the issues are much broader now. There have been too many incidences where the wrong judgment calls have been made. There have been too many mistakes, and that is distracting from the vital work of government, and it's also distracting from the big choice that people in Scotland have to make in 3 months' time, and that's why I think it needs to change in Downing Street.
Have you told the Prime Minister about this statement before making it?
Yes, I spoke to the Prime Minister earlier today, and I think it's safe to say that he and I disagreed. Conor Gillies from Sky.
Anas Sarwar, one of your own Scottish Labour MPs is reacting to what you're saying here, calling it idiotic, immature, incoherent and self-defeating. It's playing right into your opponent's hands, according to that senior figure. Have you done this to blame the Prime Minister if you failed to become First Minister in May? And second of all, if you don't mind, last year you called Peter Mandelson an old friend when it was public knowledge that he had links with Jeffrey Epstein. How do we take you seriously in cleaning up politics when one of your own Scottish Labour MSPs is best friends with a convicted paedophile?
Well, let me first say that the approach of briefings I have always called out. And that's why I'm not taking the approach of briefing, I'm not taking the approach of talking to journalists in private. I'm being upfront and honest about my view and my first priority and my first loyalty being to Scotland, and that's why I'm doing what I believe is best for Scotland. And let me also be clear that Peter Mandelson is not someone or something I want to be associated with. I met him in his capacity as the ambassador ambassador to the US because that was the right thing to do in Scotland's interest. But should he have been appointed the ambassador? No. Should he be a member of the Labour Party? No. Should he have a seat in the House of Lords? He shouldn't, and it's right now that he is investigated by the police. Peter Smith from ITV.
Who else did you speak to about delivering this speech today? Who knew that this was coming?
Look, I've obviously spoken to those in my own team. I have had many conversations with many figures across the UK Labour family, both in government and out, and I've been really honest with them about my view, the situation we're in, how I believe this is intolerable, and that I am going to do what I think is right for my country, Scotland. I could have chose to stay quiet, to keep the head below the parapet and just carry on as if everything was fine for the next 3 months. But my first loyalty and my first priority is to Scotland. And Scotland so desperately needs a different kind of government in Scotland. I mean, you think about some of the things I've been speaking about in the last few weeks. We have had the most intolerable cover-up at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, where lives were lost, families were lied to, staff were gaslit. Do we really want to sacrifice Scotland's NHS to a third decade of the SNP? We have children that are feeling unsafe in the classroom or on the streets because of knife crime or the challenge of mobile phones and social media. Do we want a government that's going to stand up on those issues and fight young people's corner? Do we want to sacrifice another generation to SNP government? No. I'm not willing to sacrifice Scotland and Scotland's services and Scotland's towns, cities, villages and islands to a third decade of SNP government. So I am going to do what's right by my country, Scotland.
Did you speak to either Wes Streeting or Andy Burnham before giving this speech, and would you expect others to also come forward and repeat your message?
Well, I've spoken to many figures both in and out of the Cabinet. It is for them to decide their own view and what they choose to do or not do. I'm making my own decision based upon my own view, being my own man. And I'm going to put... not at all. And it's for others to do their own decisions and make their own minds up about what they feel is tolerable. This isn't good enough. It needs to change. And I'm going to do what's right by my country, Scotland. Catherine from Channel 4.
Is your position anyone is better than Keir Starmer? And secondly, are you comfortable being the public face that pulls the trigger on a Prime Minister when some of your colleagues, including the Welsh First Minister, already appear to be rowing back on this?
Well, first of all, as I said, I'm going to do what I think is right by my country, Scotland. This is not a coordination. I'm not speaking to others about what they do or don't do. That is for other people to decide. Ultimately, it's for those in number 10, those around the Cabinet table and those in the UK Labour Party to decide what happens next, the process, the timeline, or who comes next. That's not a matter for me. The only job that I'm concentrating on is making sure that we change the government here in Scotland, remove John Swinney and the SNP from office so we can take a different approach here in Scotland.
If this was wrong, will you resign if Keir Starmer doesn't step down?
I am standing to be Scotland's First Minister. I'm being open about my view. I could choose to keep my view a secret. I could choose to brief in private. That's not the approach I take. I'm doing what I think is right. I'm doing what I believe is my first priority and first loyalty to my country, Scotland, and I'm being my own man, making my own decisions. It's for other people to decide their own view. I'll take Paul from the Daily Record.
You've always had a good relationship with the Prime Minister, so how did he respond when you told him what you're going to do today? And is it possible for you to win the election if he stays in post?
Well, let me first of all say there is probably no one in Scottish politics that's had a better relationship with Keir Starmer or a closer friendship with Keir Starmer than I have. He is someone that I have campaigned alongside, worked alongside for the last 5 years in my role as leader, someone that I campaigned ferociously for to make sure we could get rid of a Tory government, and someone who I have supported in the last 18 months. So does this cause me personal hurt and pain? Of course it does. This man is someone that I regard as a friend and who I have a certain level of loyalty to. But my first priority and my first loyalty has to be to my country, Scotland. And that's the decision I have made. In terms of the election on the 7th of May, the two candidates for First Minister are me and John Swinney. And that's the choice people have in Scotland. A third decade of the SNP with all the failure that we have seen, or a First Minister that's going to put Scotland first, Scotland's towns, cities and villages first, and Scotland's NHS and public services first. That's the platform I'll be standing on, and that's what I hope to persuade people of over the next 3 months. Mark from the Sun. Oh, sorry, Mark, didn't see you there.
Going back to what you just said about your knowledge of Peter Mandelson. You described him in that tweet as your old friend. So it's not like you just met him on that one occasion as an ambassador. So how long have you known Peter Mandelson? How long have you known about his links to Jeffrey Epstein? And why didn't you demur when you were asked to meet him on the steps? And to go back to the other question, if Keir Starmer stays, will you go?
So I have known Peter since around 2021. I obviously spoke to him in Washington when I was there to defend and protect Scotland's interests, partly through Tartan Week, partly through the negotiations at the US-UK trade deal and all the importance that has for our country. I didn't appoint him US ambassador, he was appointed as US ambassador, and it was right that I had those conversations with him to protect Scotland's interests. But is that someone that I want to be associated with? No. He has betrayed this country, he has betrayed the party he was once a member of, and he has betrayed the public in terms of his actions and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And to the other point you make, it is now for others to decide any process, any timeline, and who the next Prime Minister may be. I'm going to spend all my time concentrating on removing John Swinney, changing the government here in Scotland, and making sure we deliver the new direction Scotland needs.
And if those
Thank you all so much.
People decide he should stay, will you go?
Well, that's for them to decide. I'm only answerable to one group of people. That's the people of Scotland. That's who I serve. That's who I stand for. That's who I'm campaigning for. And that's the people I want to deliver for. I only have one relationship and one loyalty that matters most to me, and that's to Scotland. Thank you.
Well, there we have it. That was Anas Sarwar saying that the Prime Minister should resign, and he said it's for other people to decide what they want to do. Now, as he was speaking in a moment of high drama, 6 cabinet ministers tweeted their support for Sir Keir Starmer, the stormtroopers, if you like, in the cabinet backing their man. David Lammy, Rachel Reeves, Darren Jones, Pat McFadden, Steve Reid, and also John Healey, the Defence Secretary. Now, as he was speaking, David Lammy just arrived in Downing Street, and I shouted at him, is it time the PM went? Now, he looked at me, the Deputy Prime Minister, and said this. He said, no, we're waiting 14 years to get here. So his point there is, this Labour Party has been in power, waiting to get into power for 14 years. Why waste it now? Almost suggesting there that if Keir Starmer goes, there'll need to be a general election. That's what David Lammy said to me moments ago in number 10 in Downing Street. I'm looking over my shoulder to see who's coming and going. So David Lammy swept in at the same time as Anas Sarwar was making that extraordinary intervention in Scotland, saying it's time for Keir Starmer to go. And Lammy tells GB News, no, we've waited 14 years to get here. He's almost saying to the party, don't wreck it by replacing Sir Keir Starmer.
Did there, those 6 names from the Cabinet that have supported the Prime Minister, how many members of the Cabinet are there? 28? I mean, there are far, far more who haven't. Perhaps the most interesting thing here is the big names that have not tweeted support for Starmer. You say you saw Wes Streeting striding about earlier. He's in Westminster today. We haven't heard from him. We haven't heard from the Deputy Leader, Lucy Powell. We haven't heard from Bridget Phillipson. We haven't heard from, I'm not in the Cabinet now, but even Angela Rayner, very, very quiet too.
That's right, Tom. We haven't heard from a whole slew of other members of the Cabinet, and we're waiting to hear from them. And if they don't reply or respond quickly, I reckon they're on the way out in the next Keir Starmer reshuffle. So there'll be a race on to make that happen. Or is it the case you've got maybe 2/3 of the Cabinet who don't agree with those 6 members of the Cabinet who say he should stay? I'm hoping we can get that clip of what David Lammy said just then. He swept in a dramatic moment, all for the cameras, and I just shouted at him, and that's how he replied. They clearly feel that if you remove Keir Starmer at this stage, 18 months off that landslide in July 2024, a general election must follow. Why would he think that? Well, clearly they're concerned about a lack of a mandate for anyone who replaces Keir Starmer, and that goes back to what Keir Starmer told us in Hastings on Thursday. He believes he has a personal mandate from those millions of people who gave him that party 160-seat majority in the House of Commons, and that's why that would be jeopardised by replacing him. This is a battle to the death live on GB News for this government.
And yet, here's the strange thing. I mean, this is exactly what the Boris Johnson loyalists said in the dying days of Boris Johnson's premiership. We don't have a presidential system in this country. We elect a parliament. I mean, it still will be a Labour government when Keir Starmer goes, just with a different leader, as we saw last parliament with Truss followed by Sunak. I mean, they're holding this line, but shall we return to what Anas Sarwar was saying for a second? Because he was completely damning, not just on the point of Mandelson, but he expanded it out to all the other mistakes that this government has made, and frankly the lack of ability of the Prime Minister to communicate any of the successes, in his view, that the government has had.
Well, that's right. I mean, I mean, frankly, it's a battle now between the leader of Labour in the UK against the leader of Labour in Scotland, and one of those two has got to go, frankly. You can't have Anas Sarwar saying that Keir Starmer can't be Prime Minister, and then Keir Starmer carries on. Where does that leave Anas Sarwar? I mean, will Labour, frankly, to push measures to remove Anas Sarwar as Labour leader? I'm not even sure that if they can constitutionally, because Scottish Labour, when I used to work up there for newspapers in Scotland, it is different to the one down here. It's more of a kind of a familial, a fraternal relationship rather than one being boss over the other. So, but it's an awful look, and frankly, it means that it's unlikely you'll see maybe Sir Keir Starmer being able to campaign much in Scotland ahead of the May elections if you've got a leader there who doesn't want to be in place. It absolutely here is a battle of wills of the team allied to Keir Starmer. So far, 6 cabinet ministers and counting against Anas Sarwar and others who think that she shouldn't be there. I'm just waiting for this clip to be played out for you. I've got some more responses now. Heidi Alexander, the Transport Secretary, she says she backs Keir Starmer. Hilary Benn, the Northern Ireland Secretary, he backs Keir Starmer. Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, she backs Keir Starmer. That's 9 by my count. We are not yet through half the cabinet. We're still counting. A majority of the cabinet, as things stand, are not supporting Keir Starmer. We'll wait and see who else. So to recap on those names: Yvette Cooper, Heidi Alexander, Hilary Benn, John Healey, Rachel Reeves, Steve Reid, and others, Darren Jones, totalling 9 separate cabinet ministers. They all back Keir Starmer. Anas Sarwar doesn't. We're waiting now to see what does Wes Streeting say. What about Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, and others too? We'll wait and see what they say, how they respond. But it's extremely tense here in Downing Street. The press are gathering around me. It's a real moment here on GB News. Will Sir Keir Starmer fight to see tomorrow as PM?
Well, Christopher Hope, thank you indeed for being there for us on Downing Street. We'll be straight back to you as you get more information. It sounds like things are moving very quickly indeed. And to repeat those names: David Lammy, Rachel Reeves, Pat McFadden, John Healey, Heidi Alexander.
Is that Lammy clip there? I want to play it.
And Darren Jones, Yvette Cooper, amongst the 9 cabinet ministers who are supporting the Prime Minister. But still, I mean, what are there? 27, 28 members of the cabinet? I mean, yeah, big silences. Listening to what Anas Sarwar was saying, he was